All right, folks, welcome back into the Mancast. We are back with episode 34, sticking with the NFL. Too much bullshit going on in the world these days to be talking about politics when we could be being happy and talking about football, which is also incredibly interesting this week. A lot of odd outcomes, a lot of stuff to talk about. Before I kick it over to Ed, though, I want to just say something, Ed. You've said a couple different times that you're worried about the Chiefs, their receiving core, and primarily your issue is you don't understand how Travis Kelce is going to be able to continue to be utilized as a wide receiver and maintain the same pace. I think it was something like that. I'm paraphrasing. I'll let you speak for yourself. Before I do, if I just have to ask why not, because he just keeps doing it. 179, 12 receptions, 179 and a tutty. What say you, brother?
Sure. Because eventually somebody's going to figure something out that has a much better defense than Chargers. And they're going to, and if that's the only thing that you have and it's taken away from you, then where do you go? That's the problem. So now they just traded last week for and had McCall Hartman return to them. That may help. And they could definitely use that help. And Rice had 4 or 5 catches yesterday, and I think a touchdown as well. So he seems to be growing a little bit. We'll see where they go. Like I said, they're still going to be in the championship game one way or the other. The concern is if they run into a buzzsaw defense, and that can keep Kelce in check, and they have nowhere else to go. But I mean, if the Chiefs' biggest worry is that Kelce stats are too gaudy, that's a really, really good problem to have. So yeah, I'm not going to argue about that.
I think the Chiefs they've played some decent defenses so far. And I honestly think that they'd be undefeated. They'd be undefeated right now if it wasn't for the fact that a tip pass made it into a pick six at the end of that Lions game.
They're also just a couple plays away from having 3 losses. So, but that's the NFL. That's not that big a deal. I'm just saying, like the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions, for instance, with Barry Sanders, they had one offensive weapon, and he was it. And he was good enough to get them to the playoffs, but
this is not the same as that. We don't just have Barry Sanders.
No.
We've got several dudes.
Well, you do, but
yeah,
your receiving core is weak, and it needs. I'm asking you
this: if Tyreek Hill can be that guy every week, if Justin Jefferson can be that guy every week, if every team gets to have that guy every week, why doesn't my team get to have that guy every week? And why does it make any difference if he's a fucking tight end or a wide receiver?
Because when Tyreek Hill gets held like the Eagles did to him, Waddle jumps up and goes over almost 100 yards himself. In their running game, and Mossert does a hell of a lot too. They have far more offensive weapons than the Chiefs do right now. They have other players that they can go to.
I'm sorry, but they don't have a better running back than Pacheco.
They do.
So.
Mossert. So. Well, my God, dude, he's 300 yards ahead of him, and he's third in rushing in the entire league.
Don't care. Pacheco's better.
Nah, you're wrong.
They play it different.
You're a homer, and homers always do that kind of stuff.
They play it different, so... All right, well, we're going to find out because all I know is that the Chiefs keep showing up and winning, and for some reason the Dolphins don't. So, you're
confusing me saying that the Chiefs have a shit wide receiving core to meaning that the Chiefs are bad. I've never suggested that, not one time. But they have DVRP rates them the 28th wide receiving core in the NFL because that's what they are. They're terrible.
Right, yeah, well, so be it.
That doesn't mean that they're not going to win their conference and go to the AFC Championship game and potentially another Super Bowl because they have Superman at quarterback. That's the biggest difference maker that they have. But
he can't throw it to himself. He can't throw it to himself. Kelce didn't score all the touchdowns. Somebody else was scoring other touchdowns. There were 31 points scored.
So my point is football players, but if you're going to make the argument that any one of the wide receivers you have is a number one wide receiver anywhere else in the league, you're wrong. It's just not true.
We have a tight end that is equivalent of a number one wide receiver.
But he's still not a wide receiver.
And he makes up for that. That's all I'm saying. It's unorthodox. It's not like you're normally it's a wide receiver that plays that role, but Kelsey can play that role where other teams have lesser tight ends. The Chiefs have lesser receivers. It's just a little bit of a shift. I know it's odd, but it seems to be working for them. That's all I'm saying.
Well, it certainly is working for them. You can't argue that. They're 5-1. So I'm not going to. I'm not arguing against the results that they are currently having. But I just like to see them have at least one wide receiver that can take pressure off of the both of them. It would open their game wide up, and it would make them practically unbeatable.
Right.
But that's all I'm saying. But none of this matters, Chad, because as much as I fight back against all these things, when it comes to the NFL and making fun of people who lay shit on the refs and say that the league is rigged. Clearly, if you watch any football yesterday and you know me and the idea that I could have more losses in my predictions than wins, clearly this league is rigged. There's no doubt about it. There is the proof that everybody's been looking for. The refereeing yesterday, before we get into our standard stuff, was absolute dog shit. I've seen it be bad sometimes, but holy fuck. There were at least three games that I have down. The Browns-Colts game, the Browns literally were handed a football game at the end of that game. The calls that they made at the end of that game, the incidental contact, the pass interference on two guys that are out of the back of the end zone and the ball going over their head. Dude. And that incidental contact that never should have been called pass interference, that negated a fumble that would have just gave the Colts the win. This was all in the last moments of that fucking football game. It was horrible.
Yeah, the Colts
had that game. If anybody watched Kenny Pickett go for that first down with 2 minutes and 29 seconds on the clock on 4th and inches, he ended up 4th in yards. How they got that ball up there, and the fact that they were out of timeouts and 29 seconds from the 2-minute warning, that play can't be looked at by the league is absurd. That I don't even know how they got that wrong. I can't figure it out. I can't figure it out. I'm not saying that I'm joking about it being rigged. It was just a god awful, terrible call. And what's the other one I got listed here? The Eagles and the Dolphins. Now look, the Eagles kind of kicked their ass, right? It's the Philadelphia Eagles, everybody. No penalties in the entire game against the Eagles.
That didn't make any sense. 10-0. That's
come the fuck on.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
Yeah. And I've seen some. There were a bunch of other games with really piffy, roughing the quarterback calls, and the game doesn't resemble what it used. I understand from a economical business point of view that the highest paid players are probably going to always be the most protected players, but we are protecting quarterbacks now to the point where it's ridiculous. And to hear that Tom Brady on his podcast was whining and complaining about how pity-patty they're being and how protected quarterbacks are. Did you hear what Gronk said on a different podcast last week?
No.
He said Tom needs to shut his mouth because all these rules are because of him.
No doubt. Yeah.
He's my boy and I love him, but this is all because of you, Tom. So for you to be complaining about it now is silly.
Need to pipe down.
Because your last season, you literally got a call because you bitched at the ref and he threw a flag and you were barely touched. So, yeah, it's funny how Tom Brady got more calls than any quarterback in NFL history, and now he's the guy saying it's too much.
Yep. And who bitched and moaned and lobbied so hard for all of that.
Do you remember when you could no longer hit a quarterback below the waist? It's literally called the Brady rule.
Right.
So shut the fuck up, Tom Brady, right? You did this. You're ruining our NFL game. However, the Broncos safety, Kareem Jackson, on that head-to-head blow-up, he deserved to get the 4-game suspension he got this morning. Yeah. That's bullshit right there.
That was egregious, man.
He could have ended that guy's career. He could have knocked his head clean off. That was ugly.
Not supposed to be
That's the
doing that.
kind, when they say no head-to-head contact, I thought that's what they were trying to eliminate.
That's exactly what it was. I mean, that was the textbook. Like anytime
now,
they go, what do you mean? They should just show that.
Wikipedia changed the definition to that video. That's all it is now. You just go there.
Of course.
Head-to-head, illegal head-to-head contact. It's just a video of Kareem Jackson destroying that poor guy who will probably be on the sidelines himself for the next couple of weeks because, goddamn.
Yeah. Yeah. You know who else will be on the sidelines? Jimmy G, just like we expected.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, he lives on the sidelines, right? I mean,
yeah.
The Falcons did not disclose that Bijan Robinson was not going to play in their game.
True.
Vegas is very upset, which I do not give a single fuck about. I don't care at all. But it does change the way that you prepare for a team or some differences and some things you may want to do. And that, so from what I'm understanding is that he has a kind of severe migraine headaches, apparently, from time to time, like Terrell Davis did. And he was really sick, and they put him out on that field for a series of downs, and then let him actually carry the ball. The league should come down hard, and that organization should send every one of their viable players to the Jacksonville Jaguars with no compensation and their first round packs for the next 5 years, and that'll teach them a lesson.
I mean, that is dangerous shit that they're doing, and
I think they're going to get hit with, like, they're going to say you're not going to get. We're going to fine you $100,000 or something. They're going to do something to make it look like they're trying to do something.
Right.
And they are, because you can't do that. That's just known. You can't not declare your players knowing. And you can't put that player in danger to try to make it look like everything was above board. That's even worse. They put that young man at risk for no absolute reason. If it was up to me, I'd fine him $500,000.
Whatever, man. I mean, they deserve it.
I have to say this. Everybody needs to listen to this carefully. Fuck Taylor Swift. And this is why I say it. I'm not even blaming her anymore. The coverage of her has become completely incessant every time the goddamn Chiefs play football. It's embarrassing and stupid for the NFL. Just knock it off. If you watch a Chiefs game, it is almost impossible to watch. As soon as she comes on, I turn the game off. I can't take it. Just stop it.
Yeah, we're already having a problem with the fact that we're the fucking Patriots now and we win all the time. And so people are already getting a little fucking tired of us. And then now we have this. And it's like, great. That's exactly what we needed.
So this is how I know the Taylor Swift thing has become embarrassing and stupid. Fox Game Day, we're discussing how Taylor Swift's relationship with Kelsey may be affecting his brother for the Eagles. And of course, the reason for that is that's just completely false. It's absurd. It's a way to bring up Taylor Swift and keep her in the NFL.
That's exactly right.
That's all it's about. And by the way, while the NFL has increased women who watch their games over the last 20 years from 1% to 1.5%, huge increase. And they have way more female fans than they would have just say 20 years ago. And they've been working hard at that. But if you think that they watch the pregame shows, you are out of your fucking mind. So the only person that you're talking about Taylor Swift to, Fox Sports, is men. And they don't care. And you know what they did? They went to CBS Sports, your rival, and watched their pregame show because your pregame show was fucking idiotic.
It's shit about my team. And then they start talking about her. And I'm like, I want to change it, you know? And so... like it sucks for everybody involved.
Patrick Mahomes has an amazing play. Kelsey catches a pass. The defense forces a fumble straight to Taylor Swift in the box.
Yeah, and so it's super frustrating for me because they're even doing it in the talk shows and all the replays. Like you can't just even watch a highlight reel without seeing her dumb fucking face. And it's to the point now where I'll even turn the channel. Or I haven't listened to New Heights in weeks. I haven't listened to their podcast in weeks because I'm over it. I don't want to hear anything about him and her relationship.
Right. Here's another thing too. Kelsey's been playing for the Chiefs for what? 7 years? He's in 7 or 8 years?
Sounds about right. 7, I think. Yeah.
We'll go with 7 or 8. I'm not going to look it up real quick, but in that time period, and by the way, his last girlfriend was 1,000 times hotter than Taylor Swift. I mean, I don't know what he was thinking because that girl's just whoa. How many times did you see his mother in one of the stadium boxes with the owner and his family? Never, not one fucking time. Never happened. My guess is that she's just there because they're using her too. And I'm sure she likes the attention. She's a middle-aged older woman, and I don't blame her at all. I'm just saying it's just silly. So what is Patrick Mahomes' idiot's brother's name?
Jackson.
They should. This is the way I think that we can get her off the screen. Jackson has to sit beside her every time that she's at a game. He gets to go to the game and sit directly beside her.
He was there Sunday, and
she's not allowed to talk to anybody but Jackson.
Saw his stupid ass in there too. So
imagine, you know what? Or maybe the Chiefs are smarter than all of us, and they're so tired of Jackson that they said, Kelsey, we're going to set you up with Taylor Swift so that we can get Jackson out of the fucking camera and stop it. Everybody talk about him all the damn time. So,
it's been like 11 years.
So there is, he's 34.
Yeah.
So, he's 34 and he's putting up these kinds of numbers is ridiculous. And it just goes to prove, because we're seeing many more players play much longer than what we all consider to be the normal. And it is literally sports science and how good they are at the surgeries now, how quick they are to return these guys to the field, how they keep them healthy for a much longer term period than they used to be able to. How many tight ends do you ever remember in your lifetime or your study of football through your lifetime, going back generations before you even were born? Did you hear about 34-year-old tight ends catching 12 balls for 179 yards in a football game?
Yeah. I mean, and being the fucking total X factor for the team,
right. And not only that, but I think you made a comment earlier that is correct. Travis Kelce's really not a tight end. And what I find
he's doing
funny, I will say this. If I was the defensive coordinator of any team getting ready to face them, I would not treat him like a tight end. And they keep doing that. They keep treating him like a tight end. He is often covered by safeties and linebackers who have no chance at covering him. I'd put a corner on him. Their other receivers really aren't that good. I'd put a cornerback on Kelce. And now he'd be bigger and stronger, but they'd be quicker, and he would not be able to gain separation from them. And they'd be able to jump his route sometimes. That's what I would do. But nobody seems to be willing to do that for whatever reason, because you know how it is. They get locked into this is the way the game is played, and then they don't deviate from it. And it's working to your guys' advantage. I would imagine, however, that Andy Reid would figure a way to screw all that up too. They would try something like that, and immediately one of their average wide receivers would look like a superstar, because now he's not being covered by a corner and he's wide open all over the damn field. So, and that's when you have a caliber of player like Kelce, that's what is damned if you do. I
was going to say Tony Gonzalez in his last year was still crushing it. 83 receptions, almost 900, 860 yards.
At what age?
His last year. So that would have been 15, 16 years into it, right? Okay. He started he started in 97, and then he went to the Falcons. So he retired in 2013. So you're talking about 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 seasons.
Okay, so he'd have been 36 or 37 years old. Only a few years older than Kelce. And Kelce, by the way, is going to have well over 50. He's got 1,500 yards receiving this year.
He's going to, and he's definitely on a pace to do so. I mean, he had 13. Yeah. He had 1,300 last year.
Yeah, and he's going to smash the record for catches by.
He's had 14.
Going like this. Isn't this his third game or fourth game in a row with 10 or more receptions?
Yeah.
It's just kind of silly what he's doing. I mean,
it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts. And my hat's off to him. And by the way, for anybody who thinks that Pat Mahomes isn't having a good year, rewatch yesterday's game, because That was just there's no quarterback better in the league. And for those people who say that Pat Mahomes is more hype than anything else, you don't know a fucking thing about football. So just shut up. Because tell me you know nothing about football without telling me that would be the thing you could say. It's just ridiculous.
Oh yeah. I mean, just kind of your run of the mill average fan. You know, if I run into somebody and I'm wearing this shirt, for instance, they'll go, Mahomes. I don't watch a lot of football, but man, that Mahomes guy is really something neat, you know? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, even you're just super casual, cursory level fan, not even fan, you wouldn't even call him that. It's like, wow, that guy's something special.
Look, if I am going out and looking to meet women, I wear a Kansas City shirt because they'll go, Pat Mahomes. And I'm like, no, I'm not Pat Mahomes. I know I'm better looking, but it's Pat Mahomes. So we had a very, very, very weird weekend. So I want to point out 4 games, and it was a slow weekend because they only played 13 total games. And there's still being one played right now. Last I looked, the Vikings were smacking the 49ers around the football field.
Niners are moving back in the right direction. It's halftime now, but I think it's
what's the score?
I think it's 7-10. Let's see here.
Because it's Vikings. Well, it's 10-0 is what I have, but it might not have been fully updated. So let me get out of that and go back to it.
Oh, 16-7.
16-7 Vikings. Yeah, they're smacking them around the football field.
Yeah, they really are. Cousins is looking good tonight.
Yep. That's because he's been hearing trade rumors about himself, and I think it pissed him off. And let's see. Let's just take a real quick look here while we're here. Brock Purdy's playing beautifully. He's 11-13. But Kurt's 15 of 20 for twice the yardage, so that helps.
Yeah, Purdy's been running.
Playing. Ayuk's having a pretty good, decent game. So, but this is long from being over.
Purdy's been running the ball too. He's been looking good.
So, Jags Saints started everything off for this week, and the outcome was what we thought it would be. Although the Saints tried to get in it late, it didn't work out for them. That's my concern, and we talked about this a few weeks ago. My concern with the Jags oftentimes is that they don't finish games when they have them well in hand. And that's young quarterback with a young team around him. But Doug Peterson's going to have to teach these guys how to be ruthless and take the sledgehammer and finish the job.
Right.
But overall, they looked really good and they played a really good football game. But that was predictable. The Falcons and the Bucks, Borefest. Neither one of those teams are qualified. That was a throw-up gimme. I thought the Bucks only because Baker Mayfield had been playing really good, and then he looked like Baker Mayfield from Cleveland yesterday. The only reason that he didn't have 5 interceptions is because 4 of them were dropped. Yep. I mean, he just looked like total shit.
He was really bad.
And the Falcons generally aren't a really good football team anyway. Although they try, Desmond Ridder is just not the guy that's going to lead them anywhere, and it's unfortunate for them. The Raiders and the Bears kind of shocked me because the Bears have been playing so abysmally that we both thought that even though the Raiders aren't all that good, Jimmy Garoppolo or not, they're the better football team. And, well, Bears played good with the quarterback's name, who I don't know, played fairly well.
Yep, they pulled together twice now this season. They've managed to squeak a win.
The best football game I've seen all year was the Browns versus the Colts. And it was a barn burner. And first thing I'd like to say about the Colts is those are the stupidest, most generic fucking uniforms from a team who already has the most generic uniforms. They're an abomination, and you need to get rid of them. Thank God you're only wearing them once this year. They invented those specifically for just one game this year. For what possible reason would you do a thing like that? The Colts uniforms have been exactly the same since their inception in the 1950s. So it's not like they're throwback jerseys. They're just completely made up, black helmets, all blue uniforms, no stripes, no outlining of the numbers, nothing. Just they look like they were wearing blue jumpsuits and black helmets with a blue horseshoe on the sides. You could barely make out because the blue's dark and the black helmet's obvious. So
sometimes I wonder if like Jim Irsay is like secretly going broke. And so like he does the just dumb shit just because he's trying to save money.
Oh, well, but that's an expenditure. Do you know how much those uniforms cost to outfit every player on that football team to wear them once?
I know, but he went for the basic package, you know.
Yeah, and because of doing that, they're never going to sell those jerseys. Their fans aren't going to buy that garbage. So yeah,
I don't see how
he's made
I don't
much
see how they're any
stupider.
worse than what they have. They're actually better than what they have.
Oh
I mean,
no.
just a different
Those are the
color.
ugliest uniforms. So the very first thing I said when I was watching the games with James yesterday was that looks like a Division III football team. Then this morning on CBS Sports, their podcast thing with Michael Smith, first thing out of his mouth when he talked about it was, it looked like some generic fucking Division III football team. I was dying because it was so funny because I was like, that's exactly what I said yesterday.
That's hilarious.
They're horrible. They're horrible. I was making fun of them the whole time we were watching the game. However, the game was fantastic.
It was a great game. Colts were on fire.
Oh, Colts were playing amazing. Garner Minshew looked. See, that's just it. Garner Minshew felt like he was a superstar quarterback, just like when he was playing Division III football because of the uniforms they were wearing. It totally worked out.
Took him back.
But they look great. They played really, really well. Cleveland, I got to tell you, they keep managing to win, but they did not deserve to win that game yesterday. They have the W. They're not going to give it back. But that officiating at the end of that game was abysmal, and it cost them the game. It cost the Colts the game.
It was multiple calls, but for me, the worst one of them all was that obvious pass that could not have been caught. It was so completely out of play. You might as well call it a throwaway. You cannot call pass interference on that because that is not a pass. That's a throwaway ball.
That's right. And everybody knows, but the one that was even more egregious to me was just simple incidental contact between two players, and the ball is caught and then fumbled and recovered by the Colts, and you're calling the Colts player for incidental contact when the guy who ran into him for the incidental contact was the player from the Browns. It wasn't even on him. So the whole thing was stupid. That fumble is recovered by the Colts. There's not much time left in the game. Game over.
True. Yeah.
So, but you know, officiating was poor. It was just very poor yesterday all around. Cunts, Giants, the Cuntmanders had a perfect opportunity to stay in play and choked it up against a bad football team with a third string quarterback.
Yeah.
And I don't know what else to say about that. Their defense did what they were supposed to do. They held them to 14 points. Right. Their offense put up 7 fucking points.
I know.
There's nothing else to say.
Pretty bad day at the office.
You lose football games when you only score 7 fucking points.
It's not too many.
So and the idea that there are still people out there thinking that it's just a blip and the Redskins are still going to end up with a winning record and make the playoffs, you're not paying attention. The Lions and the Ravens, the Lions got their asses whipped straight up. And the Ravens are finally at full strength and playing to their level. AFC better get scared.
Bro.
The last few weeks, Jackson has been on fire, but yesterday he put it all together. That was monster. It was 28-0 at the half. And so his gaudy numbers literally all happened in the first half of that game. They cruised in the second half. They weren't even trying that hard. And
they definitely dialed it back.
Down. It was 35-0 after their first drive of the second half. And
they had like 500 and I want to say they had like 560
yards. Yeah. And Jackson was responsible for 400 and some of them.
They would have had 700 if they didn't take their foot off the gas. A lot of that was just them shifting down because they had the game won.
Now, listening to, you bring it up a lot. You're right. It's like wrestling and the announcers for wrestling. The Lions, clearly, their season's over. They were 5-1 going into that game. They ate shit. It's a bad look, but they'll be okay. And everybody's now decrying that they're garbage. It's over for them. And what? And who's going to win that division other than them? The Vikings?
Right.
I don't think so. The Bears? The Packers? Right. Come on. So obviously the Lions are going to win their division and they're going to go to the playoffs and they're going to be in the mix, just like we all predicted. So I don't know why everybody's just like, well, I don't know. There were guys actually saying, I don't know if it proved how good the Ravens are, but it certainly showed you how bad the Lions are. Really? A 5-1 team who just last week you were the same guy saying they may win 14 games by the whole thing's over, maybe get to the Super Bowl. Shut up, man. I'm so Skip Bayless burnt out. All these guys think that they have to do the most incendiary things possible instead of talking to educated football fans directly and say, hey, this is my opinion about this. And there's no reason to panic here. This is what I think. And that's cool. But the sky is falling over every tiny little thing ad nauseum, man. I'm tired of it.
Yeah, that's what they do. For me, nothing's changed. The Lions are exactly who I thought they were.
Yeah.
Damn good team.
Got their asses beat.
I don't think they're one of the elite level teams, but they're damn good team, and you better watch out because they can get you. And, granted, it was the first game of the season, and the Chiefs didn't have all their guys and weren't fully ready to go, I guess, but they've still scored the most points that any team has on the Chiefs, and that's 21. So
that does it. Look, every team, most teams have an embarrassing loss through the year, from time to time. Not every single year, but things like this happen in the NFL. I'm sure they would love to have it back. If you're telling me that these two teams played each other again this Sunday, that would be the result again, no way.
No,
now, if it was maybe the Chiefs and the Cardinals, and it was 38-7, and next week I would expect that same result. But the Lions are a legitimate playoff team, and so it's just. And by the way, we've seen a lot of teams now sitting at the top of their divisions, expecting to go into the playoffs, who got their asses handed to them at least one time this year, including teams like Miami, the Bills, the Eagles. Come on, the 49ers. Now, they didn't get blown off the field, but they lost to a shit team, for God's sake. Things happen. It's the NFL. Get over it.
Yeah.
The Bills and the Pats.
Speaking of the Bills, what?
Yep. Lost to the Patriots.
Yeah. The Bills are who I thought they were just a few weeks ago. They're not who I thought they were at the very beginning of the season. But after a few games, I thought, okay, the Bills, I don't know about this. And then, they win a big game, beat the snot out of Miami. And I'm like, oh, shit, okay, maybe the Bills are legit. Now I'm right back here to going, okay, the Bills are the up and down roller coaster. Josh Allen is the up and down roller coaster that he's always been. And I don't know what to think of this team. So,
well, Josh Allen's numbers actually for the year are perfectly fine. He had a decent game yesterday. They just are predictable because they have zero running game. They have to throw the ball. They're like choiceless when it comes to that. Their running game, and last year, the worst thing about their team was their running game. So I don't know what they're going to do or how they're going to address their offensive problem, but I can tell you this. Jonathan Taylor wants out of Indianapolis, and they need a running back desperately. And trade deadline is next week. So anybody want to get on the phone? Because if they could bring in a legit running back at that talent level, because Jonathan Taylor, when he's playing and healthy, is a top 5 running back in the NFL. He'll totally change the dynamic of that football team. But it's just not working out what they're doing. Knox has been hobbled all year, and frankly, Diggs is the only real offensive weapon they have currently. So they need help because they just can't do it on their own. But you are correct, though, that I don't know necessarily Allen. The team itself is schizophrenic. One week, they're laying the smackdown on a top NFL team, and the next week, they're losing to one of the worst teams in the NFL. It makes no sense.
Allen was 27 of 41 for 265 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and a fumble loss. Yeah,
it's not terrible.
I don't know. It's not terrible, but it's not it's not Josh Allen. It's not who you thought he was. And he's so up and down. And so is this team.
Well, no,
And, maybe there are as a
that
whole.
is who Josh Allen is. So Josh Allen has led the league in turnovers his entire career.
And
nobody's turned the ball more over than him.
Yeah.
So it's like Brett Favre. None of that stuff bothers me. What I don't get are these brain fart games coming into this game. In the 3 games previous to this, the Patriots did not score 29 points, and they laid 29 points on the Bills' defense yesterday.
Yeah.
That's not on Josh Allen.
That's incredible.
Right. They had the worst offense. Now, you're looking at those numbers. Look what Matt Jones did against that defense. Matt Jones.
I know. That's the weird
20 and 25 for like 225 or 230 yards. What the hell?
Yeah, 272. So he had more yards than Allen. He had a 9.1 yard average and to Allen's 6.5, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions.
Right.
So
Belichick can still coach. I think Belichick coaches better against his own division because he faces them more often. But this is an outlier game for the Patriots, by the way, sports fans, and don't be looking forward to this anymore because you probably ain't going to see it.
Yeah, yeah. So go ahead.
Well, look, you can get caught in division games. I mean, the Chiefs play the Broncos this week, and Broncos will probably win. Except for they never beat the Chiefs ever.
Take it easy.
Cards and the Hawks, exactly what we expected. Nothing special. Seahawks didn't look like they were putting in their strongest effort, but they really didn't need to. But it's a win and they'll take it. Steelers, Rams. This is where you got me for sure. You took the Steelers and I took the Rams. I'm not going to make the claim that the Rams would have won that game, but clearly that ball should have been turned over to the Rams. And from his own 40-yard line, all he had to do, with 2 minutes and 29 seconds, timeouts or not, doesn't matter. You don't want Matt Stafford in that position. At the best he could have done is put the game into overtime unless they went for 2. We'll never know the turnout, but it was a tragic call. And that's the problem with these kinds of horrible calls that are so egregiously bad is because the Steelers can't claim a solid victory knowing good and damn well that they got aided. And the players on the Pittsburgh Steelers are not happy about that. They don't want to dart all over their win. They just want to win.
Right.
So it's not a bad look for the Steelers, but if you're on that team and you're in that organization, if I was a coach, I'd be like, don't get too happy, guys, this week. We got to buckle down because guess what, man? We were gifted part of that game. So we got, instead of, yay, we won. So
right.
That's why that's another reason to hate that kind of stuff. Chargers, Chiefs, predictable. Pat Mahomes was a monster in that game. That's all there is to say about that. He's incredible. He's fun to watch. I did, sadly, there's a caveat here, and I think Chiefs fans are going to be very sad, but the Kansas City Chiefs are changing their name to the Swifties, and they're going to have pom-poms and a skirt on their helmets and Taylor Swift's face.
I'm just hoping that at some point she's writing a song about him. That means they're done.
And then every time they play away from their stadium, whomever the opponent is, the announcer is going to play that fucking song.
Oh, guaranteed. Yep. And then that'll probably be when he'll start sucking.
But he'll fix it by dating Cher next.
Oh God, no! Please don't do any trannies, buddy. Come on, do something different.
The Packers and the Broncos. Just when you didn't think that Jordan Love could look worse than he already did,
man.
And I want to point this out again to all the talking heads. After the first week of the season, you all anointed him as equally as good as Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre. I mean, what the fuck? I told right from the beginning, I was like, Jordan Love is not the answer, and the Packers are going to be shit. Yeah, totally. The Broncos beat them. That's how bad the Packers are right now. The Broncos. Right. Now, I will say this. Russell Wilson finally looked good. From beginning of the game to the end of the game, had decent numbers, didn't turn the ball over.
Yeah.
So good on them. And by the way, if you listen to the talking heads, the Broncos have turned the corner. Will probably win their next 400 games in a row. It's stupid.
Yeah.
The
Except they
Fins
have
and the
Kansas City.
Eagles. Well, everybody, the Eagles are healthy. Get fucking scared.
And they just keep adding dudes. Like they just got a new safety today.
Yeah, they got him from the Titans. What's his name?
Byard.
But they need that help desperately. They made the trade. They got him, and they're only giving up a 5th and a 7th round draft pick for him, and that's only if he meets certain criteria. Right. So yes, and the Eagles' offensive line is at full strength, and Hurts, and I think generally that Hurts was hurting.
Yeah, banged up.
No pun. For the beginning of the season, and nobody was making it quite clear why, because he was always able to play, so they don't have to disclose. But I think he's 100% healthy, and his last few games have been just dynamic. But what
he's banged up again, man. Last night, he
tore it up.
Yeah.
I'm just saying though.
I'm saying by the end of the game, he was limping really bad.
Oh yeah. And they need to take care of him, obviously. But they got Swift from Detroit in the offseason. And man, he had a hell of a game yesterday too. And AJ Brown is tearing it the fuck up.
Can they take Taylor Swift too, please? All right.
So the Eagles are really good, and the Dolphins to me are like the Bills. They're kind of schizophrenic.
Yeah,
they can roll up on you and drop 40 points on you, and then only score 17 the next week. So when they play better teams, the Dolphins haven't looked good. The Bills smoked them. The Eagles smoked them.
And I've heard some analysis about it today. I think it was pretty smart. And it's that Tua doesn't ever go past his first read. He's just trying to get the ball out. And he'll go to a second and third read, but his biggest problem is if he's getting flushed, he won't, play backyard football is what I'm saying.
Right.
You've got Tyreek Hill.
Right.
If you could just run around, he's going to find a way to get open.
Well, see, this is my problem, and I've said this about a lot of these styles of quarterbacks coming out of college, is that when they feel pressure in the pocket, you step forward, but these guys panic because now these guys are behind them and they can't see them, and they freak out and they want to run. Where a guy like Pat Mahomes starts getting shifty, starts making way. He uses that sixth sensibility that he has, and he keeps everybody in front of him while trusting his line behind him to control these guys, and he starts moving around because he's not afraid that he's going to get blindsided. But that's a rare attribute to have, right? Most guys can't do that. They get nervous once they have to step outside of the pocket and out of their comfort zone. So the very first thing they want to do is run to the sideline, get the play over with, get to the sideline, start again. And that's what Tua does a lot. And it interrupts the flow of the offense when you do that.
Miami's O-line is pretty banged up too. They're down three starters.
This is the NFL. Yeah. And the truth of the matter is, one of the reasons that the Chiefs have been so damn good is not they get guys banged up and hurt, missing games too. But when you build your team from the ground up instead of through trading for veteran players who get hurt more easily or already come with a lot of defective parts, so let's put it that way, and you have a lot of young players and you have a lot of depth, and then you can replace players and you can switch things out a lot easier than teams that have a great surface of starting players, but then they get depleted the second they have to go into their bench. And
it hurts a lot of teams. Point, the Chiefs are really stoked right now that they picked up a young linebacker from the Chargers over the offseason named Drew Tranquil, because in the absence of Nick Bolton right now, he stepped right in seamlessly and is just crushing it. So that's really been a good thing. And then we also saw a major bump on yesterday with Charles Omenihu coming off of his 6-game suspension on the defensive end position and getting a sack and ultimately just being a disruptor right out of the gate. So, we've got fresh legs in there at defensive end too. And this is the finest defense Andy Reid's ever had in Kansas City for sure. Best thing I've seen Spags put out on the field in Kansas City, and the defense is gnarly, dude.
Well,
They're really good.
it should also be mentioned while we're talking about this that and Bill Belichick, and he's not the only one. Joe Gibbs, go back further to like Bill Walsh, Joe Gibbs, Bill Parcells. Then you get into your Bill Belichick's and of course Andy Reid. These are the kinds of coaches that it just doesn't stop with them. It's organizational, right? The GM and his staff, the scouting and their staff, the coaching and his staff, and they put everything together. They know exactly what they need, and it always seems to plug and play. And they're always the best teams. The Patriots did that for 20 years, and the Chiefs have been doing it for a good while now, thanks to Andy Reid. And knowing what he wants and the risks that he's willing to take. And it's just bared out for him because they have a great organization and they got a great GM and they got a great coaching staff overall. And they're always finding the right players. The Dolphins are building that, but their depth isn't quite there. So when they lose a starting offensive lineman, it can be catastrophic. Whereas for a team like the Chiefs, it's not, or the Eagles, it's not as damaging.
Right.
Or even the Niners, for that matter. There's plenty of teams that can do it, but right now the Chiefs just happen to be the best at it.
Speaking of the Niners,
what do we got going on there?
It's still the same score, 16-7, but the Vikings are driving about at midfield now, and 3rd and 5.
If the Niners drop 2 games in a row, that'll be cause for concern.
Oh, it'll be a lot of hoopla.
Well,
a lot of overreactions.
You just, listen to Skip Bayless tomorrow, and he'll tell you why that they're never going to win another football game again.
Oh, they're done. Season's over. Brock Purdy.
All right.
Well,
now,
one more thing here. So what did you have on a total? I think I was 7-5 or something. And what were you?
I am 6-7.
Well, I chose
well, if they win tonight, I'll be 6. I'm 5-7 right now. You're 7-5.
Okay, so I'll be 8-5. I got you. So
you'll be 8-5 if the Niners win.
Right.
But that won't change.
So you gained two ahead against.
You gained 2. I was up by 4, I think, maybe 5, and you gained 2 this week.
Right. So
I'm not, and I didn't do the numbers to the numbers because when we get to week 9, that's exactly mid-season. Then we can unveil exactly where we're at, make it more of a surprise for even us.
There you go.
Okay, so 2 next week's games. The Bucs and the Bills. Well, frankly, after what I saw from the Bucs, I don't care how bad the Bills may have played against the Patriots. They'll get healthy. There's and they're at home. There's no way they're going to lose to the Buccaneers.
No, they're going to bounce back on that one.
So I got the Bills. It just seems that would probably be more shocking to me than the beat down the Lions took.
Right.
The Jets and the Giants. The Giants beat the Commanders. That doesn't mean a whole hell of a lot, to be honest, and they have not been playing really good football. And the Jets, regardless of everything, have been playing really good football, and they just had the week off. So I'm going with the Jets.
Same. Jets it is.
Now, the worst thing that could happen to the Jets, I got to get over here towards this mic. The worst thing that could happen to the Jets is that Zach Wilson is healthy. I say actually his last couple of games he's played okay.
He's done better, yeah.
Jags Steelers is going to be a very interesting game because this is my concern here. I think the Jags are the better football team and they have the better quarterback. They're the better playmakers. But as we discussed earlier, the Jags sometimes can't. They need that killer instinct. If they let the Steelers hang around, that could be a big problem. And that worries me because they did that with the Saints and damn near lost that game. And if the Steelers played the Saints, I'm taking the Steelers all day long. So that worries me a little bit. But the Jags just seem to be on a beeline right now. So I'm going with the Jags just simply because I think they're the better football team.
And I am going with the Steelers again.
All right.
Double down on the Steel Town.
Yeah, the Steelers have been much better football team so far this year than I was expecting them to be. And here's the Steelers have been just god awful and pretty good. And so you never know what you're going to get with them. They're going to be at home. I'd be more concerned if this was December and the Jags had to play outside in the real cold. But this Sunday, the game will probably be perfect temperatures. So,
oh yeah, it's going to be like in the 70s here this weekend.
And so for a football game, that's great.
Yeah.
Eagles and the Commanders, that's a no-brainer.
You mean you're taking the Commanders?
So you're taking the Commanders. I'm putting you down for that anyway.
Fuck you.
Yeah, that excuse me. The team formerly known as the Redskins have they started to look like they were possibly getting their head out of their ass and then immediately shoved it right back in.
Yeah.
The Rams and the Cowboys, I hate to do this, but I got to take the Cowboys.
I was like, go ahead. I'm taking the Cowboys as well.
Because they just had the week off and they're at home. And the Rams, to be fair, talent-wise, they have the better quarterback and they have the better wide receivers, but everything else is better on the Cowboys. The better offensive line, the better overall defense, the better special teams.
Right.
But I hope I'm wrong. I'll take the loss. I don't mind.
Yeah, just to see your team win.
Vikings and the Packers. I'm taking the Vikes.
Same.
I think everybody's starting to understand that while I think Jordan Love is a competent human being and a really good person, and he'll probably play in the NFL for some time, but he's not going to be that guy.
Right.
The Falcons and the Titans. I have not been impressed with anything the Falcons have done this year, even though they've managed to eke out some wins. But I have not been impressed with the Titans at all either. And they just traded their best defensive back to the Eagles just because I think they're like throwing the flag on their season. Like it doesn't much matter. And Tannehill's been shit, but they're at home. And they still have arguably the best running back in the NFL. If Derrick Henry gets running downhill, the Falcons ain't going to do anything to stop him.
So are you going Titans?
I'm going Titans.
All right. I'm going to take my chance here, shoot my shot. I'm going Falcons.
All right. Pats and the Finns. The Finns are going to get healthy.
Yeah, I can't see
There's just too much offensive firepower.
I can't see the Pats being able to hold them off.
And I can't see the Finns losing 2 games in a row. The Saints and the Colts. It's going to be, I think, my first time all year. I'm rolling with the Colts on this game. They've been playing really good football. Even when they lose, they're playing really good football.
Yeah.
And the Saints, I'm just not sold on the Saints. I watched that Saints game against the Jags, and I noticed something that was very interesting to me. Derek Carr was pissed off the entire game. And I was really watching the game close. After I started noticing in the first quarter, because James and I watched the game together. And right around the end of the first quarter, I looked at him and I said, I think everybody's got it wrong. I think that Derek Carr is not just missing his targets. His targets aren't where they're supposed to be.
Right.
And that's what he's pissed off about.
Yeah.
Is that he is doing what he's supposed to be doing, and they're not. And then, there was a point where, he was literally yelling at guys. He was angry in the third quarter because he's like, Jesus Christ, because they were moving the ball. But when it mattered most, where the guys were supposed to be, in the lanes they were supposed to be in, they weren't there. And I think that the bigger problem there is that the Saints offense still are not on the same page. They're just not. And the Colts seem to be. That's why I'm going Colts.
Yeah, I think the Colts played out of their minds yesterday and above their usual ability. Sure. So I'm not going to count that as, too much more. This to me is a coin flip. And because it's a coin flip and because I'm behind you in the counts here still, I'm going to roll the dice and go Saints.
Okay. Texans, Panthers, the battle of the rookie quarterbacks. You know where I'm going there.
Yeah. Is Young even playing?
Well, they just had the week off. So,
okay, so he's probably healthy.
Yeah, he'll probably be fine.
Yeah, Texans.
I mean, CJ Stroud is just, and they're going to go head to head. And Stroud went number 2, and he's a human being, right?
Yep.
He may be a humble guy, but he's still got an ego, right? So,
for sure.
The Browns and the Seahawks is a very interesting game to me.
Super interesting.
Very interesting.
Yep.
I think the Browns are probably the better football team, but they have a mess at quarterback right now, and that concerns me quite a bit. Watson can't stay healthy. He was injured again yesterday.
Yep.
His backup, PJ Walker, played pretty good, and he's played pretty good a couple other times this year, but they're not nearly as dynamic with him. The defense, though, can the defense shut down Geno Smith? They have shut down every good quarterback they've played. And except for Garner Minshew, who apparently has some kind of trickery. I think the Browns are the better football team, but the Hawks are at home.
Right. And that's a big one.
That's huge. So that's such a coin toss. And while I think Seattle has been the steadier team this year, because the Browns can do stupid shit and look great one week, and then like the Bills or whatever look crappy the next. It's so hard. Where I think that the Hawks, throughout this whole season so far, have been pretty steady, across most of their games. I mean, they haven't been smoked by anybody, right? They're just playing good, steady football, even though they're losing. So let's see, where are the Seahawks currently? They're 4-2.
Yeah, they both have the same schedules, basically, or same records, basically, don't they?
Yeah. And the Hawks are at home. This is one of those. I don't know why I'm going the Hawks. I just have a feeling that 12th man that they have in Seattle can just make it so hard on offenses. The Browns' offense hasn't been dynamic. It's been their defense. So the question is, can the Hawks score enough points at home? Geno Smith's been pretty good this year. He's got some weapons. Now, who's that giant wide receiver they have in Seattle? He's a monster.
DK Metcalf.
Yeah. Is he injured?
That's a great question. I think so.
Yeah, if he's not playing, I'm going to change that, I think. Is DK Metcalf available to play? Let's see what it says here. What is up with DK Metcalf? The wide receiver has been dealing with a rib injury. It appears he also had a hip injury sustained in week 6. And that's why he's inactive. Doesn't look like he's going to be playing. I don't know.
This says he takes on new role. Says DK Metcalf takes on new role in NFL. Spectator.
Yeah, that's that's a huge hit.
It's a hip and rib injury.
Yep.
I knew he was out, but I didn't know how long.
The rib injury happened last week. That's why he didn't play yesterday. And the Seahawks were pedestrian. He only put up 20 points against the Cardinals because he wasn't there. I'm going Browns now.
Now, they made him a game time decision before.
He still won't be 100%.
Yeah. Okay, so you're going
Browns.
Hawks?
I'm
Oh,
going Browns.
Browns. Okay.
And it's only because I don't suspect he's going to be healthy or play. If he's a scratch, that plays into the hands of Browns, and their defense is really good.
Their defense is incredible. But man, that's not. I mean, they have other guys. That rookie looked real good
We're,
for that was filling in for him.
we're drawing long on time, so we better speed
Okay,
this up.
fair enough, man. That was a tough one for me.
Bengals Niners quickly. Where's that game right now? Are they getting back into this thing here? Or are they still? Yeah, they scored again.
Yeah, they just
I think they're
scored
going to come out and win this.
14-19.
The Bengals really can't afford to lose. But the Niners are at home. I'm going Niners.
Well, let's go back. So I guess I've got to. You said Browns. I'm gonna take Browns too.
Yep.
So Chiefs,
Bengals, Niners.
Bengals, Niners, definitely Niners.
Taking the Niners. Chiefs, Broncos. That's a no-brainer.
Chefs.
Just the Broncos are not a good football team, and the Chiefs are the best football team in the NFL. Ravens, Cardinals. That's
going to Cardinals, right?
100%. I'm putting you down for the Cardinals as well.
Mm-hmm.
Bears, Chargers. Chargers will get healthy. They're got to be angry after yesterday.
Oh yeah, these are the games they win,
and they're at home.
Yeah.
Well, the Chargers are a great football team when they play inferior talent. And the Raiders and the Lions will get healthy against the Raiders.
Agreed.
So that wraps all that up. We have, let's see here, 1, 2, 3. We have 3 different games. So somebody's going to gain ground next week.
Right.
And if you gain decent ground, you may actually be able to catch up. So
that's right.
We'll see where we're at. So everybody, thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe and leave comments and, let us know what you think. I really appreciate it. We love talking football, and we love to hear what you have to say about that very subject. So until next week.
Later.